Hello sports fans, welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going my Week 12 college football predictions. So last week I had a record of 16-3, and that brings my record on the season to 176-35. Kicking things off this week, we've got Michigan at Maryland. So this could be a surprisingly close game for Michigan, because last week they beat Penn State, next week they have the big one against Ohio State. So they need to make sure they're focused on this week, and this is in trap game. And Michigan will also be without head coach Jim Harbaugh once again, after Michigan accepted his suspension earlier this week. Now, Maryland snapped a 4-game losing streak last week with a win over Nebraska, but Maryland has struggled quite a bit offensively over their last 5 games, as in that span they're averaging just 19.2 points a game. They now face a Michigan defense, which is one of the best defenses in the country, and Michigan has the best scoring defense in the country, allowing just 7.5 points per game. So Michigan should dominate this game defensively, and while I think this could be a trap game for Michigan, I just don't think Maryland is good enough, and Michigan wins by a score of 31-6. Next game, we got Alabama hosting Chattanooga. So this game should not be close. Alabama should destroy Chattanooga. Alabama's been playing really well lately, especially offensively, after they scored over 40 points in back-to-back games. And then they'll face an FCS team. And while Chattanooga is pretty good in the FCS level, they're at 7-3. This should not be close. Alabama wins this game easily, 56-10. Up next, we got Louisville at Miami. So this could end up being a big game in terms of the ACC. And it already is a big game for Louisville because they're technically still in college football playoff contention, sitting at 9-1. And while I think it would be extremely difficult for them to get in, there's still a path for them to make the playoff. But Louisville has a tough game this week, playing at Miami before they face another tough game in their rival Kentucky next week. But Louisville can also clinch a spot in the ACC championship game this week with a win. Now, Miami has not been very good as of late, but they did just play a really close game against a great Florida State team. Miami will have Tyler Van Dyke back at quarterback because he was benched, but his replacement got hurt, so Van Dyke is back at quarterback. And he's been awful lately. He's thrown a pick in 5 straight games and has 11 interceptions in that 5-game span. Now, Louisville is a team that has been very good defensively this season, and they're also a team that wants to run the football offensively, but Miami is a very good run defense, the best run defense in the ACC, allowing just 86 rushing yards per game. So I could definitely see Miami getting the upset win, but I'm going to take Louisville just because I trust their defense, and I do not trust Tyler Van Dyke. He turns the ball over way too much, and Louisville gets to win narrowly by a score of 27-24, but this is a game that could go either way. Next game, we got Rutgers at Penn State. So both teams lost last week in defensive games. Penn State lost to Michigan, and Rutgers lost to Iowa. Now, Penn State has not been great offensively this season. In fact, following their loss last week, they fired their offensive coordinator. But I would expect them to not be able to score much again this week, as they face a very good Rutgers defense that is allowing just 18 points a game. Penn State is also very good defensively, and I think this game will be a lot closer than it's expected. I think this will be a very low-scoring game because both teams are very good defensively, not great offensively. But Penn State is the better team, and they're home. They'll get the win by a score of 23-14, but this is another game that's closer than it should be. Moving on, we've got Ole Miss hosting UL Monroe. So this is another game that should not be close. Ole Miss is looking for a bounce-back win after a terrible loss to Georgia. Now, Ole Miss starting quarterback Jackson Dart left the game against Georgia with an injury, but he is expected to play this week. But he should not have to play the whole game, as Ole Miss should destroy UL Monroe, who is very bad with a 2-8 record, and has also lost 8 straight. Ole Miss should dominate this game and win this one by a score of 51-13. Next game, we got Oklahoma at BYU. So Oklahoma snapped their 2-game losing streak last week with a dominant win over West Virginia. They now face a BYU team that has lost 3 straight, and in those 3 losses, BYU is averaging 9 points per game. The BYU defense is also not great, allowing 28.7 points a game. Oklahoma should dominate this game, and I have them winning by a score of 42-10. Next game, we got Tulane at Florida Atlantic. So Tulane is 9-1, but they haven't been amazing over the past few games. They've played 4 straight one-score games against teams that haven't been amazing. FAU is another team that isn't great, but Tulane really needs to make sure they don't get caught looking ahead when they play UTSA next week, who's also undefeated in conference play. But FAU isn't very good. They scored 25.6 points offensively and face a good Tulane defense that allows just 19.6 points a game. But based on the recent Tulane performances, I don't really trust them, and I'm going to say this is another game that's closer than it should be. Tulane gets to win 24-16, but Tulane really needs to start looking a lot more convincing. Next game, we got Utah at Arizona. So this is an interesting game. Arizona's won 4 straight, but did not play a great game last week when they played a close game against Colorado. And Utah is coming off a loss to Washington. The Utah defense is great, allowing 17.8 points per game, but they have let teams with good offenses, such as Oregon, Washington, USC, all score over 30 points. Now, the Arizona offense is pretty good, scoring 31.1 points a game, but it has been the defense for Arizona that has been good for them, allowing 21 points a game this season. This is a true coin flip for me. Arizona's at home, and I think their offense is a little bit better than Utah's offense, so I'm going to take Arizona with the win 27-24. But this is going to be a great game. These are 2 very evenly matched teams, and this could definitely go either way, but I've got Arizona with a narrow victory. Next game, we got Tennessee hosting Georgia. So I was considering picking Tennessee before last week. Georgia looked unstoppable in their win over Ole Miss, and Tennessee was just brutal in their loss to Missouri. Now, Tennessee has been good defensively, allowing 20 points a game, but their defense allowed 36 points a game to Missouri last week. Now, I do think the defense could have a bounce-back game and slow down the Georgia offense, but I worry about the Tennessee offense against the great Georgia defense that allows just 15.6 points a game, because Tennessee is scoring 32 points a game, and that is pretty good, but they do a lot of their damage on the ground, as they have 213 rushing yards per game, and Georgia only allows 107 rushing yards per game. So Tennessee is going to need a perfect game from Joe Milton and their offense if they want to get the win. I could see Tennessee making this a close game because they are at home, but Georgia's the better team. Their offense should still be able to move the football and score even against a tough Tennessee defense, and Georgia's defense is great too. And I think Georgia remains undefeated. They're the better team here, and they win by a score of 35-20. Up next, we got Notre Dame hosting Wake Forest. So Sam Hartman, Notre Dame quarterback, faces his former team. Notre Dame is coming off a bye week after a loss to Clemson 2 weeks ago. Wake Forest is fighting for a bowl game as they currently sit at 4-6. Wake Forest offense is terrible, scoring just 20.5 points a game, and they haven't scored more than 21 points since week 3. Wake Forest now faces a great Notre Dame defense that allows just 16.9 points per game and is very good against both the pass and the run. Notre Dame should dominate this game defensively. The offense should follow against the not great Wake Forest defense, and Notre Dame gets the win. Sam Hartman beats his former team, and Notre Dame wins by a score of 42-6. Moving on, we've got Iowa hosting Illinois. So this is another game that's going to be very low scoring for Iowa. Iowa's elite on defense, allowing just 12.3 points per game, and they face an Illinois offense that is scoring only about 24 points a game. Now, Iowa's offense is terrible, scoring just 18.8 points a game, but they could be decent this week as they face a terrible Illinois defense that allows nearly 30 points a game. Iowa should win this game. I think their offense could score a few points, and Iowa wins this one by a score of 21-3. Moving on, we've got North Carolina at Clemson. So this is another very tough game to predict. Clemson just won back-to-back games, and their offense has been a little bit better in those games, scoring 31 and 42 points in those games. But they face a North Carolina defense which is very bad, allowing 25.5 points a game. So I could definitely see Clemson having another solid offensive performance. But the Clemson defense faces a tough task against a very good North Carolina offense that scores nearly 40 points a game. But Clemson's defense is pretty good, allowing 21 points a game. So I could definitely see this game going either way. Clemson is home, and they have a good chance to get the upset win. But I'm going to take North Carolina because of how balanced their offense is. I think their offense is better. And North Carolina gets the win by a score of 35-31 in what ends up being a really good game. Next game, we got Ohio State hosting Minnesota. So Ohio State needs to make sure this isn't a trap game with Michigan on the schedule next week. But Minnesota isn't very good. They're coming off a game where their defense was terrible, allowing 49 points and 604 total yards against Purdue last week. And they now face an Ohio State offense that is very good. Minnesota isn't very good offensively, scoring just 22 points a game. And they face an elite Ohio State defense that is allowing just 9.9 points a game. Ohio State is the much better team. It will show this week, and Ohio State gets to win easily by a score of 42-7. Up next, we got Arizona State hosting Oregon. So Oregon can clinch a spot in the Pac-12 championship game this week with a win, and they face a bad Arizona State team. Arizona State's offense is terrible, scoring just 17.7 points a game, and their defense also isn't great, allowing 27.4 points a game. And that's going to be a nightmare against a very good and well-rounded Oregon team, who allows only 17.1 points a game and scores 46.3 points a game, which is the highest scoring offense in the country. Now, Oregon should dominate this game, clinch their spot in the Pac-12 championship, and win this game easily by a score of 45-13. Next game, we got Oklahoma State at Houston. So Oklahoma State desperately needs a bounce-back game after getting demolished by UCF last week because they lost 45-3. Houston has lost 3 of their last 4 games and hasn't been very good in their first season as a member of the Big 12. Houston's offense isn't good, scoring 24 points a game, and their defense allows 30 points a game. Oklahoma State isn't a great statistical team, but they have won games this year, and they really need a bounce-back win. I think they get another win, and they beat Houston by a score of 34-17. Up next, we got North Alabama at Florida State. Another FCS versus FBS game that should not be close. Florida State is one of the best teams in the country. North Alabama is bad at the FCS level at just 3-7. Not much to say about this game. Florida State dominates, wins 52-14. Up next, we got Kansas hosting Kansas State. So this could be an interesting game, but Kansas might be without quarterback Jason Bean, who left last week's loss to Texas Tech with an injury, and we don't know the status of Jason Bean for this week's game. If Bean plays, this game could definitely be close, but if he doesn't play, this game's probably going to be a blowout. But Kansas State's probably going to win either way. They're the better team on both sides of the ball. Kansas State scores at 38.8 points a game compared to 32.9 for Kansas, and defensively, K-State allows 18.5 points a game compared to 26.2 for Kansas. So Kansas State is very good at stopping the run, which is what Kansas wants to do offensively. Kansas State is just the better team here. They've won 14 straight in this rivalry. They make it 15 straight and win this game by a score of 33-24. Next game, we got Washington at Oregon State. So we'll have a live watch party for this game starting about 7:30 Eastern Time, so I hope to see you guys there. But Washington can clinch a spot in the Pac-12 championship game with a win, and Washington is playing their third straight ranked opponent, and this is probably their toughest opponent of that 3-game stretch because they're going to Oregon State, plus Oregon State is probably the best team. But Oregon State's been great this season. They're 8-2 and very good on both sides of the ball. Defensively, Oregon State allows about 20.5 points a game and 230 passing yards per game, and will be faced with the near impossible task of stopping Michael Penix Jr. and the Washington offense that score 41 points a game and throw the football for 378 passing yards per game, which is best in the country. Now, Oregon State is great offensively too. They score 37.9 points a game and face a Washington defense that allows 23.5 points a game and has been concerning at times this season. So I think both teams will be able to score, as both teams are very good offensively. But there is one matchup to really keep an eye on this week, and that is a very good Oregon State pass rush against an elite Washington offensive line. If one unit dominates, then they will get the win. But Washington has done a great job protecting Michael Penix Jr. this season, even against other teams who are very good at getting to the quarterback, like Oregon and Utah. The difference this week is you can't really slow down the Washington offense or truly stop the Washington offense. And I think Oregon State can definitely get the win, and they can do so by establishing the run and playing a great defensive game. But the Washington offense is just too good. I think it's going to be nearly impossible to stop them unless you play a perfect defensive game for not just Oregon State, for any team in the country. And Washington wins because their offense is just so good by a score of 38-31. But I could definitely see Oregon State with the win. That would not surprise me. Next game, got Missouri hosting Florida. So Missouri's been great this year. They're coming off a dominant win over Tennessee. And Florida's defense is allowing 27.4 points a game and has allowed at least 39 points in 4 straight games. They're now facing a great Missouri offense who just put up 36 on a great Tennessee defense and is also scoring 32.8 points a game. Missouri's the better team here. Florida's going to drop their 4th straight game, and then they're going to need to beat their rival Florida State next week, which will not be easy if they want to get into a bowl game. But I've got Missouri winning this game fairly easily by a score of 41-24. Our second to last game, we've got Iowa State hosting Texas. So Texas will be playing without star running back Jonathan Brooks after he tore his ACL last week, and that'll make Texas rely a little bit more on the pass against a great Iowa State pass defense that allows only 204 passing yards per game, which is best in the Big 12. Iowa State's defense as a whole is great, allowing under 20 points a game, but Texas also is a great defense, allowing 18.4 points a game. I think this will be a low-scoring game. I could definitely see Iowa State with the upset, but I'm going to take Texas just barely getting the win 28-24. But this game is another one that could definitely go either way. And our final game, we've got LSU hosting Georgia State. Georgia State got off to a great start this year, but have now lost 3 straight games and given up 40 points a game in all 3 of those losses. They now face an LSU offense, which is elite, scoring 45 points a game, second best in the country. Georgia State is going to be unable to stop an elite LSU offense. They're not going to be able to keep up either. LSU dominates this game and destroys Georgia State, winning by a score of 52-13. But those are my Week 12 college ball predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, turn notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible. Make sure to check out the community tab of my channel where you can vote on who you think will win some of this week's big games. But thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, turn notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.